just after 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. UTC. Today we have with us Huff from Paraprotocol and Professor Satoshi. What's up, boys?
GM.
How
Thanks for
goes
having
it?
me on.
Yeah, of course. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Of course, Marty here, our international superstar, head of Brazilian Tourism Board.
What's going
Juicebox's
on,
favorite
fellas?
counterparty.
Oh, did you see that guy? Dude, so some guy bought, when the Cayenne's doing their test net, somebody bought like one DTE options with their whole 250K balance. He's up 500K and he's fucking making memes and like clipping the streams and fucking dunking on us live on the comments.
It's amazing.
And I don't know who it is.
Nope, never seen him before, but
yeah, never heard of him. Followed by 10, 20 people that we know, but not like a big Twitter account. He's even doing like the AI subnodes straight fucking TikTok. I'll find the link and I'll repost it for people who are wondering. But he's dunking on us live on testnet. He should be PNL number one.
And I'll share it on here.
All right, let me just retweet. I mean, guys, it's been a straight roller coaster of emotions the last, I don't know, since October. We had Downtober, a great one, No Up November, and now we're here in December. And just 2 days ago, it was so over, and now we seem to be so back. Does anybody have any thoughts on what the fuck is happening? Is the BOJ really nuking crypto, or do we have bigger things at hand?
I think I can take that to start. So obviously we had like the monthly open on Bitcoin, and I think it was just all systematic, right? Systematic selling, some like equity and rates sell off, and naturally crypto is going to be exposed to that. And then it's just kind of algo stuff. So I think that sell off in particular, people love to like attribute a narrative to it. I think it was just technical in nature. And what it did was create a little bit of a bear trap for yesterday and today, which is people have become so bear hold that they'll just chase into that. I think it's the right view to be bearish. It's just at which point do you want to start shorting this thing again? And clearly, like shorting it at 85K yesterday wasn't the play. So yeah, I think like in a macro context, you've got FOMC coming up next week, and we can kind of grind higher into that. And then probably just another sell the news event, I guess. I don't like have a fundamentally bullish view on crypto over the next 2-3 months.
Well, you had some scare there around rate cuts, and especially this December cut. You had Powell come out last meeting, and he said it's not 100%. Just paraphrasing here, but not 100% that we get a cut in December. Boom, sell off, everything nuked. Then you had this AI, little mini bubble burst, like, oh, what if they don't fill their shoes? What if they don't hit their numbers? Then you had CoreWeave miss this quarter and basically just got a delivery pushed to next quarter, and boom, that stock down, 40-50%. So you had a little scare in the market. I think the FedWatch tool was showing like 90% chance that we're getting a cut, then a 30-something% chance that we were going to get a cut, and now I think it's back at 80-90. We had our own little mini bear market, but we're still in this cutting cycle. It's been an interesting ride for sure.
Yeah, I can just.
Sorry, I was just going to say, is the stream working? So I'm trying to look at it. It says the broadcast not available.
Sometimes it nukes us because we just drop so much alpha. No, it happens every once in a while. It seems to. It works here, and yeah, but our views are getting nuked for sure, Cozy, because it's 50 fellas.
Yeah. It doesn't say that we're live,
but I have it here.
No, I see it. I see us in the live on X in the right display bar, little box.
Yeah, but only 70. I mean, sometimes we get. Oh, here we go. Is it still the gray box on your guys' end?
Nope. I see the four of us and all our little
Yeah, it says
avatars.
Cayenne's live. But if, for example, like it wouldn't, if I go to your profile, Marty, it doesn't say that you're live.
Mm,
Normally it does though. But Cayenne, yes.
that's weird. Maybe because we're not in spaces.
No.
I just see your retweet. Okay.
Oh, it's not in the preview, but it is when you open up the.
Yeah, but the preview nukes the engagement. When that preview is gray, it nukes it for sure.
Bad
It's
now.
recorded.
It's bad.
People watch it. It will tick up.
All right, we're like doubling now, so maybe something happened.
Yeah, Nikita says it's working as intended. So, dude, that fucking guy has ruined Twitter single-handedly. No, he had a post. Our engagement's gonna nuke this fucking stream because we're talking shit. But he had a post that he returned a Christmas tree to Home Depot to like get his money back. I'm like, dude, that should tell you everything you need to know about this fucking guy. Not trustworthy at all. Returning a Christmas tree for $80 to Home Depot after the season's over should tell you more than enough you need to know. I wouldn't be surprised if he was Australian, you know?
Can't comment. But the views did just double, so
Okay. Well, Satoshi, you have any comment about the rate cuts, the macros, the micros?
yeah. I was just gonna dovetail off Huff's comments here. So I think like crypto unfortunately experienced like a series, like a 3-part unfortunate series of events. So first you had October 10th.
RIP Ping.
I don't know how you want to describe it. Yeah, just not one of the industry's brightest moments. A lot of
He
people
told
got
you,
hurt.
Marty, he didn't know.
I blame Wintermute.
A lot of people got hurt, and then when we were trying to chop out a low and bounce, then you got hit with the hawkish Powell. He says that the cut is not really certain, but in my view, over the last, even since he said that, I feel like all the data, again, not to go full macro here, but like, sitting here in New York, I think it's very obvious that the data shows the need to do a 25 cut. From a labor perspective, I know that some of the labor data didn't even come because there was a shutdown, which caused a whole other slew of complications at multiple levels of government, SEC, CFTC, which is what I kind of like am plugged into. But even despite the inflation, I feel like there was going to be a cut because they'll always pick fixing the job market over inflation because it's just it's easier to handle inflation, which is a number on a screen, versus people not having jobs and rioting on the streets in the US. I think that's a very clear choice for them all the time. So I think the cut's going to happen, and like Huff, I think it could be we could trade up into it, and then it could be a sell the news. I have a pretty bullish view on equities, but the perplexing thing to me is the crypto weakness, even with sort of enough time now passing from the October 10th event. So yeah, the weakness in crypto is perplexing to me. I think in part that could be due to more interest in AI names. And crypto is just like the less sexier sort of like bubble, so to speak. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes in the industry from a regulatory perspective. We're expected there. My contact actually told me the wrong thing. We were supposed to get the market structure bill signed before Thanksgiving, but obviously now it's after Thanksgiving and it's still not signed. But a lot of progress there is being made, and the market structure is quite important. Even though I think maybe not a lot of crypto natives might be tracking it, because there's a lot of institutional capital, and I know it sounds like I sound like a broken alarm clock saying this, but there's a lot of institutional capital that wants to access leverage in crypto markets, derivative markets as well, and they don't have a clear path of doing that. margin requirements still, those sort of like calculations are being figured out. Capital requirements, your entity setup, like someone like a Galaxy that's like facing off with the Insto, um, trying to sell spot or swap, and then they have to hedge out. All this stuff is kind of like in a web, so to speak. But with that market structure bill, it would be a much clearer path for these instos. And I think that's like a positive catalyst. I think also another positive catalyst, which sort of died out, it was more of a Q1 narrative around the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. I think there could be there could be a pickup of that. And, we could talk about whether that's bearish or bullish for Bitcoin, but I think that's something around the corner as well, to pick up again, because I think David Sachs, who's the crypto and AI czar of the US, was supposed to give an update on that. There's a podcast that I listened to called The All In, even though it kind of became less alpha and less signal, and more sort of like a political sort of podcast, I guess. And every now and then Chamath,
I had to
not
stop
literally.
listening. I had to stop listening when the election came around. I had to turn them off. They were fucking retarded. They're worse than Fox for sure.
They, yeah, not to go political, but yeah, it became very political, obviously, because David's position. But that SBR is supposed to, I think that might pick up sometime late December, or at least some point in Q1. But overall, I'm bullish, constructively bullish on equities, despite the AI bubble bursting talk. I'm quite perplexed at the crypto weakness. I don't know if I have the perfect answer besides, trying to assign it some sort of narrative. Like obviously, it's not catching as strong as a bid as equities for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we did see a run. I mean, if you look FTX crash up, of course we're up. If you look April to now, we're still up. But if you bought that 125K top, you're stuck. And if you bought ETH in 2021, you pretty much held a stable coin for 4 or 5 years. So, that was good. But you can't have I don't know, seriousness in this market. It's still a very emerging market when shit is up 100% a day and then down 100% the next day. I think 1010 scared off a lot of bigger players in terms of I think I don't want to quote, but the rumor has it that one of the largest makers on Binance blew up and lost all of their capital on Binance. Of course, there was a handful of people who blew up. You can even go see not who blew up, but the number of people that blew up on Deribit. They announced that. I can pull that up in a few minutes. But you have a very, it's not to say that it's over. It looked so over when, we're at 80K and Sailor's entries at 75, 78. And if you get that systematic selling just on a psychological number, like it could be over so fast we get this crazy wick. I talked about it this morning on Eden. But you do have a little bit of a tone shift in the past. We're living day to day at this point. Schwab is going to have Bitcoin and ETH, not just the ETFs, but actual spot in 2026, they said. You have Larry Finkel and Mr. Finkel, I call him Finkel, and Egghead Brian talking today at a conference live, trying to tokenize every asset in the world. You have this new bill. You do have some constructive notes, but imagine the USG just said, hey, instead of doing these, Argentine peso swaps, and I know that they made money on the swap, sure, but, we're going to go out and we're going to buy Bitcoin. Dude, the fucking thing would pump 10, 50% in a day. It would be up 100% in a week. If you had this same kind of narrative and push that you had in gold, where all the central banks were pivoting to buy physical gold, I think in the past year and a half to a year, then you could see this mega appreciation that we saw in gold. And, of course, the central banks were in early. We just need a little bit of a tone shift for crypto to really catch a bid again. It's hard when the fucking thing's down 5-10% every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not very appealing to investors, especially coming into the end of the year when you have people closing out, tax loss harvesting, closing out profitable trades, and the seasonality with that. Does anybody think that we see a little Santa rally?
It was written, but everything's moving early this year. Our Santa rally.
We're front running Santa.
It's usually in November. And that happened in October. So I don't know there, Marty.
Huff, you think we're getting any Santa rally, or you're just
In
bears to
crypto,
cryptos?
in crypto, or just generally like equities and the wider space?
Well, let's break it down. Equities, yes, no. Crypto, yes, no. Commodities, yes, no.
Yeah, I think equities were we put to bed a lot of the fears. I mean, the Nvidia what's been kind of encouraging, right, is Nvidia put out these results, and obviously bumper headline numbers, and then classic kind of analysts looking through the numbers to accounts receivables and depreciation policy and all the rest of it. But net, I think the market's kind of concluded that fine, Google is going to be a bit of a competitor here, but Nvidia have so many cards to play on, quite literally, so many cards to play on with the people that they are getting financing from, with how much they can leverage OpenAI for more demand, and there's just nobody is maxed out in terms of how much money they can allocate to AI infra at the moment. So I think we're still in the early innings of that. We're maybe halfway through. But I wouldn't say we're at a place where equities can kind of top out just yet, just because there is so much more firepower. And Sachs, to come back to him, he said half of our GDP growth is tied to AI infra now. So we have to keep going. We have to keep scaling.
Pump those numbers.
Well, that's why you get these fast scale movements down, because everybody's propping this up. These are the numbers, but just in case, you don't want to be the one holding the bag if this thing goes to free fall. So everybody just gets out and freaks out. And then, a week later, okay, it's all fine. The numbers came out. It's all good.
Well, here's the thing, right? Are we in akin to the banking crisis of 2008, where you had just too big to fail? Are we at that stage with AI infra, right? Because you've got a geopolitical angle here with Taiwan and China and everything as well. And if you've been following the movements in Intel, are we in a just too big to fail here in a global AI arms race that the US at every level of government, venture, private investor, politics, etc., just have a vested interest in this thing going up now? Just in the same way banks were too big to fail, and trying to avoid even getting into that situation.
I actually like that you brought that up, Huff, because I mean, even at the onset of this year, they have designated a new position that never existed before. It's the crypto and AI czar. So that means that
that's me.
To me,
that's me. Yep,
it's Marty. Marty LLM.
that's me.
.com. no. So when there's a new position, and if you're watching the market, I think you just got to pay attention. And if you're listening to this, you're retail and you're trying to figure out how to allocate. It's the government there's a new position in the government that never existed before that's supposed to support these two these two industries. And if that is the case, and you're not in either of those industries, I feel like that is the first signal to sort of reposition yourself if you're listening to this. Now, that's not financial advice. I think that's just general guidance from the government, and you could take that as signal, or you can fade. I don't think you fade. I think if you fade that, well, I guess you did very well at Q1 because if you faded that and you shorted Bitcoin down to 75, good job. But if you're working in the industry, I mean, there's a lot happening, and even jobs, getting jobs within those two industries, I think is growing. For example, I'm still hiring 20 people for the digital assets team that I'm assembling. 18 now.
Can you shine some light on what you're building, or is it just?
Yeah, so this is not a crypto. Well, actually, I'm also working on another crypto project, which we could talk about. It's more.
If you want to send your
NFT.
application, send it to me first, and I'll vet I'll vet you before sending to Professor.
I'll do yes, directly to Marty's number, which is
Thank you.
849-321-4624. No, I'm
Dude,
kidding.
that's
So
fucked.
this is more like TradFi firm that I'm very close to, large Wall Street institution. Everyone will know the name of it. But basically, we're trying to institutionalize crypto in 4-5 different verticals. First vertical would be custody. Second vertical would be trading. Third vertical would be payment systems. And fourth vertical, tokenization, which is sort of a catch-all vertical, I know. But if that is sort of like up your alley and you're located around, New York and or Buenos Aires, let me know. Or sorry, email/call Marty
Yep.
at 849-362. No, I'm kidding. Don't call that number. You could DM me.
But how many people are you hiring? And I mean, could you tell us a little bit about the scope? I know you told me in the DM a little bit, but if I knew anybody that would be interested, but
Yeah,
I
so
didn't know exactly what it was for.
yeah, exactly. So those 4 verticals I just mentioned, payments, trading. I'll just double click into trading, for example. So we're working with the SEC and CFTC on some of the trading rules around trading and like how broker dealers or swap dealers can actually transact with institutional clients, and like if they're trying to go delta neutral, what does the entity structure look like on a legal perspective, and then like how do they actually structure the trade. So things like that on the trading front, and then there's obviously a lot more than that, but that's just sort of like one idea. And then tokenization, recently, actually, I think within the last 2 months, I think September, for you, everyone probably knows by now, like JP Morgan tokenized a private equity fund on um, Kinexus. They changed the name. I don't want to butcher it, but let's just call it JP Morgan's chain. And they're doing cool things where you can use different assets as collateral, like for different loans. And internally, there's a lot of cool different things going on. So things like projects like that um, are really cool happening internally on the TradFi. I don't know how you call this because it's TradFi taking crypto technology. So
They're
I
just
don't know how to.
copying us, dude. We're too cool for school, and they don't want to miss out. I mean,
No,
Huff,
actually,
I'll
that's what's
bounce this
happening.
over. I'll bounce this over to you, Huff. Being an ex TradFi, are we early or are we late to the party? The goal was always to sell your tokens to institutions. You now had your chance at 124K. Maybe you're bearish on this 2-3 month front, but are we early in terms of where we're sitting in the crypto space or the TradFi meets crypto tokenization world?
So I heard this quote and I can't get it out of my head. In fact, there was 2 quotes that I heard. One was that 2025 was the year of engineering financial exit liquidity to Wall Street. And that was in the form of like ETFs and DATs, right? And then the second quote I heard, which was from the guy who went completely off-piste with Masari Vayanselkis. The only take I've ever heard from him, which I agreed with in the past 6 months, is he said Trump has turned Bitcoin into a low IQ asset. And between those 2 arguments,
Damn.
I kind of like get to this state where you have like engineered exit liquidity in the majors to Wall Street, and there is just no exit liquidity to retail because retail are busy trading 0-day options on Robinhood, or they're busy trading AI stocks, or they're busy trading like rare earth stocks or whatever, right? And outside of the people that have money to gamble, like Main Street is really struggling. You see all this stuff about a K-shaped recovery. Like it's fine being a crypto bro and being able to like do the things that comes with. But outside of that, like people are really struggling with like healthcare. People are really struggling with like rental payments. People are struggling with car repayments and all this shit. Those people are not buying your bags. And so your question to me was, are we like at a stage where crypto is such that you should be selling because the Wall Street are here to buy your bags? I think you have to be really selective within assets. Stuff like Bitcoin I think will always have a place because it is so institutionalized now. It only takes one discretionary wealth manager to move from a 1% allocation to a 3% allocation or model portfolio or whatever. And that's meaningful everyday inflows, right? Which is what the NASDAQ gets, is what the S&P gets. Like it gets some strategic, systematic buy pressure from 401ks or from people's savings accounts. So I think within the majors, especially Bitcoin, you'll always have some kind of structural bid, right? Unless things go really, really pear-shaped. I think when you look outside of that, you really have huge dispersion in returns. Like retail is not buying altcoins, clearly. And there's been very few standout cases of like good token launches. I think Hyperliquid is one that kind of stands out. But the fact that Hyperliquid trades so undervalued, I know it's hard to buy, but like it's accessible on Bybit Spot. It's accessible on Robinhood. Like this thing should be trading at 60, 70. And every single liquid token fund has been buying this. It's a liquid token fund darling. So like who's the marginal buyer at 35, 40, 45, right? Like that's what really scratches my head a little bit. And I know that we have this DAT coming and Bobby Diamond Hands has like a lot of friends and whatever. I think where you get to with crypto, my ultimate view is dispersion. And I'm going to shill pair for a second here, but like I think you have very clear winners, right? You have Bitcoin, you have Hype, you have things like Mantle, which Bybit and their family office are going to push, right? Things that are going to go up. And then you have a whole bunch of other shit where even the teams don't care about priming the thing, whether it's Eigen, whether it's OP, whether it's ARB,
The Australians.
the Australians, whether it's Say, like whatever these tokens are. And I think you can do some like basket longs versus basket shorts and just.
Is this a shill? Hold on, is this a shill?
I caveated it, dude, that it's going to be a heavy show. There's this thing on but yeah, like honestly, my honest view is more dispersion. Like I don't have a blanket view on crypto. I have a view on dispersion.
Oh, I agree
there's,
there.
yeah, there's 21 million different. There's over like I thought didn't CoinMarketCap release a report where there's like 20 million different like coins or something like that or more, or was that Cato?
Oh.
I forgot.
I'm sure there's, I mean, in my head, there's the Bitcoin. I even took Solana off my watch list for over a year now. You know, everything else like, like this meme is pumping, or, you know, you see on Bybit, or, you know, it has the biggest winners of the day, or you check Velo, the biggest sector winners, and you're like, I've never even heard of half of this shit. And, you know, I'm also not in the trenches like I used to be watching 24 hours a day. But when you just look at, we tried to do it this morning. We tried to look at the line chart, and if you zoom in enough, like 1-2 weeks, this little dip looks like nothing. But if you really zoom out, like 125 to 80 on Bitcoin, like that's a 30 something percent retrace. You have to be super careful on leverage, right? Even if you were 2-3x leverage, boom, you're have to capitulate. And where do you come in, and could you even afford, or I guess Main Street, could you even come in and afford, you know, $92,000 for one Bitcoin? You have the talk of trying to make Satoshis. This happened with Square, like when you buy something with their POS system, it shows it in like Satoshis, even though it's Bitcoin, and people were whole Bitcoin. People were confusing, like, oh, I'm spending 1,000 Bitcoin. No, it's like Satoshis, right? We have a very weird
normalize
moment.
Bitcoin as a six-figure asset. That's what we need
See?
to do.
See, it's 100K.
People-
I like Bloomberg, 0.1 million. You know, perfect.
People don't respect that it's priced at 100,000.
Yeah, but who comes in and buys at 100K? It's only institutions. You're not having retail coming in and buy. Oh, I own 0.1 Bitcoin. Who cares? They rather
Check
own.
central bank.
Yeah, you need that gold rush like that we had, where the central banks are actually going to come in and compete. And once you see that happening, that's probably the biggest buy signal. Sure, we probably front run it a little bit, but if you come in on day one, like, does anybody have any advice for a retail or a pro tail coming in, or even a TradFi guy coming into crypto?
That's definitely the next wave. So I know the prices are doom and gloom. Adoption's happening. They're just taking the tech. They're not, you know, they're like Robinhood said earlier this year, they're doing Arbitrum, and then they're going to make their own chain. They're doing perps, but in their own way. Actually, I don't even know how their legal structure actually works with perps because they're not a
Well, like
swap dealer.
Coinbase,
But
they do a 24-hour future. It just doesn't have like a hour. We already have that. It just has an hour break once a day. Like
yeah, CME actually is going to do a perpetual future. Technically, the contract has a 10-year expiration, but it's somewhat perpetual. Actually, I think they'll go lives in 2 days. But my thing, so what we were just talking about is the next wave, guys, in my opinion. So like you get sort of the US saying we're literally going to be buying Bitcoin, not just doing these like tactical sort of like freezing of Bitcoin. It's going to be literally Scott Bessent, probably, I would say, is going to make the announcement. And then all of a sudden, all the central banks are like, oh shit, we need to have a reserve too if the global reserve currency is starting to use Bitcoin. And like you actually see the two ways. So like China, I think, has been accumulating gold. I don't know if that's a secret anymore. And the US is sort of like going this Bitcoin route. So I guess that's kind of how, the two worlds sort of like look in the future. You either have gold or Bitcoin. I own both. I like gold. I have physicals, but I think that's the next wave.
what does
That'll be the next wave.
Bitcoin solve like the US debt crisis? Like
No,
at what price does
No,
Bitcoin have
I
to
don't think-
be to pay off $36 trillion of debt? Like you don't want to live in that world where Bitcoin is, $30 million. That's not something that you want to, like Saylor, what is his target? $31 million. You don't want to live in a world where Bitcoin is $31 million. That's not a fucking good life, Rent, food, everything is going to be super, super expensive. Fiat, of course, just gets inflated away and assets keep going up. Sure. But Bitcoin at $30 million is not a world you want to live in. Huff, you got
No.
anything there?
I haven't heard. This is the first time I've heard like a resurgence in the idea that the US government would buy any Bitcoin. In my like mental model, the SBR and all of that kind of died, and it died at the level of like Congress, right? Like internally, there was just not enough political support to pass something like this through. Because Trump doesn't have like an executive order and the Treasury don't have an executive order on how to use like Treasury funds. They have to they can work within a certain remit, but starting to buy Bitcoin, my understanding, was always a legal blocker. So if there's been some change there, then I'm all ears for it. But I don't know.
My
about you guys.
understanding.
That SBR like narrative for the next phase from anyone else.
No, my understanding is the USG had a bunch of cryptos of all kinds that were seized, all spread across each individual entity, and there was not one pool of money or one overseer of all of the treasury, right? Of all the money, and they didn't even know what they had because every different entity had 100 different coins, 10 different coins of all different values, whatever it was. So they put the treasury in charge of the reserve. So now they have the pool of money managed by one entity, just the treasury. Do they go out and buy Bitcoin? We gotta research that, but I know that they're not selling Bitcoin or that the digital assets they're converting into majors, like all the shit coins. And then I haven't heard that they're going out and buying. I've just heard that they're not selling anymore and there's no more auctions like there used to be.
So
Which
a
is
lot
the
of
first
what
step.
you said right. No, definitely this has gotten quiet, and that's why I feel like that's something to look forward to. In Q1, I feel like that might have, you can call it like the quote unquote top of the SBR, and actually I think it did mark a decent top there as a sell the news event. What I'm talking about is that yes, there will need to be legislation for this to happen, and I do think Scott is going to be the guy that needs to sort of help drive this along. It can't just be David Sachs. I think David, first of all, I don't even think he has the authoritative power to do something like that in his crypto and AI czar position. Although that is a very cool ass sounding position.
Just the
it's
head
gonna
of a
need
library group, dude. That's it.
he's gonna need yeah David's gonna need Scott's help to drive the legislative side effort, and I think Trump's aligned. Definitely need sort of the Congress and Senate buy-in for that, but I think that they've been making their case, and there's been some sort of murmurs in DC that, I have a DC plug, I guess you can say, about some of these efforts.
Here comes
This
the
is Twitter
alpha.
Spaces.
Here
We can
comes
say
the
whatever.
alpha.
The funniest thing is that I don't even know a guy. I just made it up. But
Yeah.
ChatGPT just started fucking making false information and told me.
no, but honestly, like if you're working in the industry, I've been like working on the TradFi side, I guess, for a while, and like you get a couple tips. Sometimes they it's legit, and sometimes it's like, oh no, it's delayed. But in general, like right direction, and um, there's some conversations going on around this. So the effort is still there. The attention to it has definitely died. Maybe down, I don't know if I put a percentage on it, like 70%. So, but I guess like you can call that like the carrot to look forward to for the market. Maybe hard to see now, but might be clearer later down the road. But I do eventually think this is the last wave that I'm personally holding my Bitcoin for. Um, you're always thinking, if you're in this market, like who's your counterparty, or like who's the marginal buyer that you're trying to sort of sell into. And I think that after this next major wave, we're going to have a much longer cool off, let's just say bear market, because then, the largest marginal buyers have entered the market, and thus like cleansing of sorts, natural market forces, if you may, um, can take place.
Cozy, I know we talked this morning about RAM and the cost of RAM, right? I don't know if you guys have been following, but consumer RAM is insane, is going insane. Like for 128 gigabytes is $1,000 or $1,400, depending. Well, just an hour ago, Micron announces exit from the consumer business. Micron makes RAM, the crucial customer base products for all, PC gaming and retail consumer facing PCs. They're exiting the consumer business because the AI business is paying for all of their revenues. So watch out for consumer RAM going absolutely bananas. They said that they're going to continue through February, I think, but watch out for RAM going absolutely fucking bananas.
This isn't just a RAM problem. This is what we were kind of talking about earlier. It's like because of the RAM like issue, it's causing an issue selling motherboards, and now motherboard prices are down. And then you have the rising cost of GPUs that are taking place because of the use of them in data centers and AI. And I've heard some rumors that like NVIDIA and AMD are going to get out of the consumer GPU business, and it's a threat to gaming currently. And people see that new Steam box as like, before it was like the retail. Well, I'm saying retail, but there are retail. It was the entry level kind of desktop or game set, box set that you could use for all of your Steam and computer games. But some people were saying that it's their kind of entry into their future of game providing and being a marketplace, as they see a future where the consumers won't be able to build their custom PCs the way that they do currently.
I'd love to like pick up on this, right? Because what you're explaining basically is all these big manufacturers, whether it's Micron and the HBM sector that they focus on, or whether it's like NVIDIA and their kind of core business with GPUs, all of them need to fund this AI CapEx spending, right? Somehow. Yep. And the people that I'm really interested in, and it's not by any means like a big swathe of people, but there are Bitcoin miners who are pivoting to become AI data centers, right? They have, largely because they locked in power contracts like a couple of years ago for electricity. That's like the one big limiting factor on AI infra, is how much electricity can you like regionally get into those power centers. And so a lot of these Bitcoin miners, from like a stock perspective, have a huge incentive to like start selling down Bitcoin and turn it into an AI data center and fuel that capex, right? And so what you're saying about Micron is just like endemic of a lot of stuff, which is people have to sell something down to play the only game in town, which is spending on AI infra and all the rest of it. And I think that's been one part, by not means all of it, but like some part of why you've seen like old wallets sell Bitcoin.
Well, you had the OGs. You had a bunch. You had a guy in June or July who started it. 80,000 Bitcoin through Galaxy, pretty much in a handful of clips, done. Then you had another handful of big players. Then the last one, it was like a yard of capital. It's like a public guy. I forget, for Owen something.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just fucking clipped it all. Like, screw it, just out, you know. And you also have this 4-year cycle. You have, if the whales believe it, that it's going to happen. But it's an interesting take that, you know, they held an asset for a decade, or, you know, a little bit longer, and now they're getting out. They're not holding 100 million of it. They're not holding 10 million of it. They're selling it to fucking zero. They got rid of all of it. That's always been not a concerning factor, but like, they're exiting 100%. They're not exiting half, a quarter. They're not leaving a runner. They're just out. So that's something to ponder and think about. You know, Bitcoin goes to 200K, great, but you know, they held from pennies to 100K, so that's a way bigger return. But that's always something that's crossed my mind, you know. And we have some smart fellas that we talked to, bigger traders, and a couple months ago they were, you know, when everything's going up, you trade coin margin, you base your portfolio on Bitcoin, you double dip as it goes up, you're making more coin, you ride it out. And a couple months ago, they started to pivot out of that and started to base their whole portfolio in USD. They started taking less and less risk. A few of the people actually exited fully of discretionary trading. You know, like on the bigger whale side too, there's been signs, or, you know, red flags of a choppy, dead market, right? I think it all points to where we sit now at, you know, 90, 92. But for me, it's always been concerning the last few months that they're just out 100%. They're not coming back. You know, they weren't holding 10%. They didn't care. They exited 100%.
Went out for smokes.
Yep.
Yeah, Bitcoin's at the yearly open right now. Flat in the year.
Hell, flat on the year. ETH was down like 20% or something. You know, we had appreciation. If you bought Bitcoin in April, ETH in April, sure, you're up. If you bought Bitcoin, you know, even last year, right, at the pre-election, right before the election, okay, you're up mega, right? You're up double, or I don't know, a little less than double now, I guess, but you were up double. And, you know, now we're in this kind of limbo space. So I'll leave that to our listeners. I know that the recording got fucked, chopped, and screwed after we started talking shit about Nikita. So we'll probably repost the recording if we have it, Cozy.
Yep.
And
I record them all.
okay,
just in
we'll probably
case.
repost it as a recording since the live got a little chopped and screwed. But thanks, fellas, for jumping on. I know we went a little bit longer than anticipated. Do we want to do round robin, Santa rally or bust price prediction end of the year? So January 1st, Huff, Bitcoin. Let's just stick to Bitcoin. Everything else.
Oh man, can I give a cop out answer? Like a path?
Of course. You can dig yourself out, sure.
So I think we like get up to 104-ish and then down to like 70s. And I don't know the timing of that. Like, I don't know which is when, but like I would play that as the next move, like 93 to 100 and then down to like Goblin Town.
100 before Goblin Town. Okay, Huff. We'll clip that. You know, well, if you're right, we'll.
Juice
If you're
box,
not, we'll
flip
just
that for
delete it.
us.
Yeah, juice box. Professor, what do you got?
I'm more optimistic, I would say.
70 then 100.
No, I think that actually like so 82K is like the Liberation Day low and 87K is like the Liberation Day high. So and we're at the yearly open right now. So if you're just looking at technicals, I guess you're playing around those like 3 levels. But I actually think that Bitcoin can hit a new all-time high in I want to say Q1 of next year. But to be more on the safe side, I think Bitcoin can. I feel like Bitcoin can hit all-time high by no later than Q2 of next year.
Q2 all-time high. All
End
right.
of the 4-year
And
cycle.
the reason why, no, I'm not a believer in I was actually. I bought into the 4-year cycle,
What I was saying,
but I
I
think,
said end of the 4-year cycle.
yeah, I think the 4-year cycle is over. Like I think you guys all have heard. I like the idea that there's no more 4-year cycle. The market's matured now, and there's larger capital at play that impacts the 4-year cycle theory, which is a nice market sort of like narrative for everyone to attach to. But I just think that there's too much, and there's too much at stake to just say, okay, like 2-year bear market's about to start, 4-year cycle, whatever, all that stuff. It's like exactly, there's a chart like exactly the number of days where this bull run has been going on. And
That's
I'm
my
like, I
favorite
think this
chart,
is
by
a
the way.
total
favorite.
load of bull crap now. And so, like, there's just no way, like, there's just no way that the US does not function properly unless, SPX is going up and to the right. That's number one. And my only kind of counter argument to myself is that if the sort of correlations sort of go inverse, then I think I'm wrong completely. But I don't know why that would be the case, which is why this recent period of weakness is quite perplexing to me. I do think that there's definitely there's on-chain evidence of older, larger Bitcoin holders that are literally selling into Wall Street's bids. But at the same time, I think that transfer of ownership is not necessarily a bearish 2-year bear market thing. It's more of like there's going to be chop, there's going to be weakness, and of course we had like what I mentioned earlier on the stream, like just 3 unfortunate series of events starting from October 10th. But yeah, I'm overall still positive, and I think that we can hit all-time highs in Q1 of this next year.
Well, I'll take the other side of that, right? And I'll leave the listeners with something to ponder, right? So if all these whales got out, if institutions are now holding our bags, what do we care if we have a 10-year flat market like a gold, let's say, and then institutions held for 10 years. It's they did basis, they hedged everything out, they sold calls, whatever the strategy that
Please
they did.
shut up.
and then a decade later, the fucking thing starts running like a gold. It doesn't have to be a decade. Could be any time. And who cares if it goes to 200K? We rode it from 0 to 100K. Who cares if it doubles from here? We hit the generational exit, right? Something to think about. I'll shut up now. I'm in the camp, like whatever, 104, 110, something like that. Draw in all the bears, or sorry, all the bulls, and then we'll lead them to slaughter. I'm not in a up only or down only mode, but I'm in a flat. You have vols that absolutely went fucking retarded high. Bitcoin was like 30s, Realize was in the 20s. Thing popped. Now it's 50s, 60s. IV at the money. You have a different game to play now, and when the thing moves $10,000 in a day, like it used to do that, but now we're getting it the wrong way, right? We need $10,000 candles to the upside, not to the downside. I think we're in this weird chop area where we're swinging like 20, 30K range for way longer than people expect. I wouldn't be surprised if we just stay kind of around, not around here, but if we just chop in 20, 30K droves and rinse everybody, and then it can go up.
You sound like somebody that sold call options.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
You
Something like
definitely
that.
straddled up, man. You straddled up,
Something
didn't
like
you?
that. No, I just would be wary of punting with leverage like now. You're late now, I think, to try to punt shit on 20, 30x, 50x leverage. You have to either play the spot game and build up your bag or go get a fucking job. That's life. That's reality.
Yeah, I'm hiring too.
There you go. Send your resumes to me first so I can vet you. Fellas, thanks for coming on.
Yep.
I got to
always a
jump.
pleasure. a
Always
pleasure
good to
having
have you guys
boys.
on.
Good chat.
Thank
Good
you,
chat,
guys.
gents.
And
Thank you.
We'll clip whoever the winner is and give them praise.
And delete the loser.
Yep.
yep.
It
Just
didn't
cut this
exist.
part out. Alrighty, fellas.
Okay, guys.
To
Peace.
Mr.
All right.
Later.